by planet Earth. 3 months gap. This one is for the one I love. You know who you are, girl. Gatana Joe. My man. Listen. She's the queen of my dreams, the girl that I see when I sleep. Ngathi neqalombona naqonde ufeel my beat. Ngambiza sancokola no squeeze sakhisa sa free. Saklika like twins busy nambiza my chick. Ngoka nembona inhliziyo yami idathe mafutheni ngithathe emathuneni yomfaka ngisithandwa sami ekuseni. Kutya nothando ngalixesha lodada mesithubeni olibambe emaphupheni ndonwabe kandiphakame ezigubeni. In a situation I'm trapped in a space of love. Mistakes I make but I praise the man above to save my life. Swear I won't break your heart. Cause you the type of girl I really wanna make my wife.
Ngamamele sana ngibekele uthawu kanamkele sithandwa cause ufela umfana singahlali sana senze nabantwana anomayina nobungandikalelele vana ngamamele sana ngibekele uthawu kanamkele sithandwa cause ufela umfana singahlali sana senze nabantwana anomayina nobungandikalelele vana
nomimizamingqisana khawungene eqobokazana hawuthusha intombazana hawuvumuhle qiyazana ugcwele umkhitho kwenkonyana thiba yethe ngosazana mama ndimthini lo mntwana ndifuna umenza umolokazana umpheke mane lophula ngoncumo lwakhe lodumo even xa ngamboni mbanjwa sesothanda isiguli cause thina sobabini soze sihlulwe zindudumo we will always be together kodwa ibheks ezindala nesidumo mashi ngicema isibane ngigoba ngiphuza inzwane khohlela amalangabe ngoba uvutha amadangathe thetha inyana ndrayi lakhe awanchuk nomathanga thambo lam lekendakhe samrola samselanga ebomi impunge ebunanganga nasebini ungekuhlanga kodwa emindo balilanga ezinzulwini beyinyanga you can take your time ucingisise babe sanimamanga mores nohataha I understand nemina siphelanga
ngamamele sana ngibekele uthawu kanamkele sithandwa cause ufela umfana singahlali sana senze nabantwana anomayina nobungandikalelele vana ngamamele sana ngibekele uthawu kanamkele sithandwa cause ufela umfana singahlali sana senze nabantwana anomayina nobungandikalelele vana. She's the ghetto queen umntwana khona phume goose ambona uyasweleka wabukuchama ngelooks the way you hlenga khona ingathi uqhame Red Bull thanda umzimba wakho and the way you black bull umila ngathi yoli empty lebia nalo mehlo athe qanga thuthi itolofia namasela msika idlula ayasithula ikofia nobungandikaleleli ivom namamia ningayitsha nephepha layo lohabia come a little bit closer simamela uthamia kuba wena ufana nqwa naye umama uMaria sisipholele sidle idina selukudiliyo uyangigulisa thando lwakho lufana nefive ndanolithengwa ngeplatinum negold nesilver nasemtshatweni wethu kuzobe kuqhutywa ikirivu uyandibhubhisa thando lwakho ikhensa kwiliva
nakukwenzeka udla ufile ngomaphebeza yasakazela senswelekile ndibabusondela ngubongeka lo kanye umndenza ndibamba amazinyo qhika inhliziyo i-trail of thought enganalisiyo bekunobanjani babesinokwazana kabanzi nkondlalela ukhuko belo oil kwesakho isithuthuthu omedzururu xa ngibona wena nditsho ndibengumntu kwamnandi uphila ipresence yakho ndirabha amagila khawundize ngegama uyifunayo ikhombe zakunika khona ndizakulinda khamjumiyendele egqwetheni into ingaphakathi becela ukwenza wam umshakazi umama abantwana together sibe nabazukulwana
ngamamele sana ngibekele uthawu kanamkele sithandwa cause ufela umfana singahlali sana senze nabantwana anomayina nobungandikalelele vana ngamamele sana ngibekele uthawu kanamkele sithandwa cause ufela umfana singahlali sana senze nabantwana anomayina nobungandikalelele vana.
Love. That word carries so much promise, so much weight, and if I'm being honest, so much disappointment. You know, at some point in life, most of us are convinced we found the one. The person who finally makes sense of the chaos. The person who feels like home. And then reality arrives. This episode is about the difficulty of finding love. Not in theory, not in quotes or Instagram captions, but in lived experience. My lived experience. There's a particular kind of excitement that comes with believing you've met the love of your life. Everything feels aligned, the conversations flow, the future starts forming itself in your head, quietly, confidently. You start imagining permanence. And that's the dangerous part. Because more often than not, what I thought was love turned out to be potential. What I thought was depth turned out to be inconsistency. And what I thought was commitment was simply convenience for them. The woman I believed was the one wasn't necessarily a bad person. She just wasn't my person. Different values, different levels of seriousness, different definitions of effort. And those differences don't always show themselves immediately. Sometimes they reveal themselves slowly, painfully. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn, in my entirety of life is this. Chemistry does not equal compatibility. You can like someone deeply, you can care about them, you can even love them, and still be fundamentally misaligned. I found myself sitting in relationships where I'm asking serious questions about the future, while the other person is still figuring out the present. Where I'm moving with intention and they're moving with impulse. Where I'm building and they're drifting. And that realization that you're not walking towards the same destination, it hits very hard. Because by the time you notice it, you're already emotionally invested. But here's where the conversation becomes uncomfortable. Because it would be dishonest to say that the problem has always been them. I'm the common denominator. I've ignored red flags because I wanted things to work. I've romanticized people instead of seeing them clearly. I've stayed longer than I should have, hoping someone would eventually meet me where I already was. Sometimes I moved too fast emotionally. Sometimes I chose availability over alignment. Sometimes I mistook attention for intention. And when patterns repeat, the mirror demands to be looked into. And that's when the growth starts. Growth starts there. At this stage of my life, I don't want confusion disguised as passion. I want calm. I want consistency. I want a woman whose values don't need to be negotiated every month. I want seriousness, not in a rigid way, but in a grounded way. Someone who knows what they want, or at least knows what they don't want. And that narrows the field dramatically, because finding someone who is emotionally available, aligned in values, intentional in love, and mature in conflict, that's very rare. It's not impossible, but it's rare. There's a loneliness that exists between relationships. Not the loneliness of being alone, but the loneliness of being hopeful again, of opening yourself up again, of believing again. Each disappointment makes the heart a little more guarded, a little more cautious, a little more tired. And yet, the desire for love never fully disappears. It just becomes more selective. Right now I'm learning that finding love isn't just about finding the right woman. It's about becoming the right version of myself. Moving with clarity, communicating honestly, setting boundaries early, walking away when alignment is missing. No matter how strong the attraction. Love doesn't need to be chaotic to be real. It doesn't need to hurt to be deep. And I'm finally at a place where I believe that. I still haven't found the perfect woman, but I've found perspective. I found self-awareness, and I found peace in knowing that love is not something to force. It's something to meet. When it's right, it won't require constant convincing. It won't feel like emotional labor. It will feel like a mutual choice. But until then, I remain open, but intentional. Hopeful, but grounded. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly where love finds you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Fact and Opinion Podcast, Season 2, Episode 5. I'm your host, Ali, and until next time, thank you very much.